Recording in progress.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Okay, here we go. A little bit of feedback here. We'll get this started here. Yeah. So anywho, welcome everyone to the meeting tonight. This is our hybrid meeting of the Multnomah Neighborhood Association. The channel, there we go. Okay. So as you can see, if you're participating by Zoom, you can see the window, the camera view of the folks that are actually here at the Rivergate Church, right off of Capitol Highway, right on Capitol Highway, right across from Jade's Hut, giving him a plug because he's got really good food. Right now we have 5 people here in person and we have 16 people online. I believe we have a hybrid. And I'm really happy about this. I think that, you know, this ought to help our overall participation. And, you know, for folks that might not be able to be as mobile as they used to or whatever, you know, this gives them a way to participate. And we've got a pretty decent agenda here. I want to get right into it. But first, we have the minutes of the previous meeting in Zoom format on our folder, in our public folder. And we have the agenda. If I could bring that darn thing up. 20 seconds, if I may, folks. I apologize for the delay here. Fancy meetings. Gosh darn it, come on. There we go. Actually, what I think this is slow computers on your chairs part here. Actually, I'm going to hold off on approving the agenda for a moment. Oh, here, wait a second. I'm going to go right into it because I finally got the damn thing on. Okay. There we go. Beautiful. Alrighty, so as you can see, we have our agenda there officially. The folks in the room can see it up on the TV monitor screen. First off is our approval of the agenda in the previous minutes. We have in our agenda, first up, the officer updates. Then at 7:15, information about the community events. I'm going straight into that. At 7:45, we have our committee reports. Wait a second here. At 8:15, we have some old business to take care of with the Community Advisory Committee and a motion that has been made. We have the new business of Solve and the guest speaker that's coming up in April. If I don't hear any objections, we can approve the agenda and the minutes, but the agenda first off, I should say. So without objection, I'll approve the minutes as they are noted here. Let's see here. Let's just get right into this chair's report I gotta give. All right. One of the challenges of these hybrids is that it's all kind of improvised here a little bit. We've got some people that are coming in, so I'm gonna let these folks come in real quick, guys. Oh, it's our officers. Excellent. Good timing. Welcome. Thanks for coming. We're doing a hybrid meeting. And so we're going to do some real quick updates on some events coming up, and then I'll get to you, sir, just so that you don't have to spend around too much time. Okay. No, get right on. Okay, so first up, let's go to the officer updates. I'm just going to take a minute and pontificate about how happy I am that we have achieved our 501c3 status as a nonprofit organization and all of the things and benefits that are coming about from it and this new energy that it's creating. We had I'll leave a lot of the accolades to when Corinne gives her update, but all I know is that we had a real good response to the event. So many folks have volunteered, 30 plus I feel I'm very excited about this potential for some new energy and some new excitement going on with the neighborhood association and what we can do and what kind of an impact that we can have in where we live. And so be relevant. I think that's the key word for me, is relevance. Is the neighborhood association relevant? You know, and I'm striving very much to make sure that we are. And I think that this is the best pathway towards relevance, by getting involved heavily in the community and doing good things. So that's my soapbox for the moment. And then all of these things that you'll be hearing about are a byproduct of our efforts here. I know that our vice chair is potentially on the call. Beth, are you on the call? Beth has, let's see here, maybe. Yeah, she did. I'll come back around, but I do want to make sure that, right. Oh, that's right. Here, wait a second, 20 seconds, folks. Oh, there she is. She's just getting on. I'm going to skip over to Tad Davis first, and then we'll come back to Beth. Tad, do you have anything to report money-wise?
I do. Well, just pennies difference in the last couple of months, and I'm not sure what those pennies are about, but we still have $175.70 in the general account. The brand new community events committee has $362.28, and the land use committee $81.81. All that for a total of $619.79.
Very good. Thank you. Let me go to Julie, and then Beth, you're on deck. I'd like you to be able to say a few words if you would. Okay. So Julie.
I have no updates. There's some things that I'm working with Beth and Pam on, but no updates as secretary.
God, I love succinct reports. Okay. Beth, are you with us? You're on mute according to this. All right. Well, Beth, hopefully you can hear me, but when you get a chance, you can get on mute and say hi to everybody. But Beth Omansky is our vice chair, and she's back in the saddle health-wise and ready to rock and roll. So that just gets me, I'm very excited about her coming back. Now, if we can just work on this Zoom situation. Okay, so next up, let's get straight to you, Corinne, and to the community events. We held a big event this last Sunday, and it's our kickoff, and Corinne and Pam were the instigators of that. So I'm going to pass the baton to you guys. Go ahead.
Great. Thanks, Moses. I'm Pam Fox. I'm a co-chair of the new events committee with Corinne. And the main thing this committee is working on right now is the Multnomah Neighborhood Association Street Art Project. So there are 3 things we're going to be talking with you about in our time today. I'm going to say them now, and I'm going to repeat them at the end just as a recap so that we have like kind of 3 takeaways. So first, I want to alert everybody that in the phase of this project right now, we're in an exploratory kind of open public commentary phase of the project where we're very interested in looking to see what kind of support we have for a couple different ideas. And we're encouraging people to sign up to follow the project and be alerted of volunteer opportunities as they are interested. And that's going to pertain to a couple of things, including like a mural site selection. So like the actual location of a potential mural. So that's number 1. Number 2 is we're going to be soliciting input about, we're going to ask folks who are interested in potentially helping us search for an artist to create a design. If you are interested in being involved in that process, we're going to ask you to email us. We have a new email address, communityevents@mnapdx.org. If you are potentially interested in being a lead neighbor, collaborating with our leadership team to have a mural at a location near where you live, that is something else that we're looking for. Now, the last thing we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be doing kind of an interesting group process of soliciting some creative input from the community here for the actual content of the mural. So that is going to be handed off to an artist that will be selected to create a design. So in that way, what we're looking to do here is really have as much back and forth as we can between a selected artist and the community in the surrounding location of the mural, to have kind of a back and forth dialogue in the process of creating the artwork that we all will be embracing. So let me start with a recap of just what is the point of this project. So we've received a $3,000 grant from the City of Portland Civic Life, Community and Civic Life Office. And what we're trying to do here with this series of events, which are all geared around planning and executing a couple of public artworks. So we're talking specifically here about street intersection murals, like a painting on the surface of the street on a residential section of road in Multnomah Village. The goals of this are to build community among diverse neighbors, create some art in public spaces, center the voice of an artist from a historically underserved community in Southwest Portland. And as a group working on this project, we are going to be participating with the City Repair Project, which is a nonprofit in Portland, in the 2023 Village Building Convergence, which is basically a training series this spring, Thursday nights, where we get to show up with them and learn how to do this community building and whatever it is, fundraising, permit application process, and actual execution of the street art. So it's an amazing pairing because they can help train us in the very thing that we're proposing to do. And they're fun, fabulous people. So that's one way that folks can get involved, is to come to those trainings with us. And then lastly, to connect residents to local government, such as PBOT, to learn how to have their voices heard when it comes to walking, biking, and rolling in Southwest Portland. So let's see. So it really is a series of events. Our next event is April 1st, and we're having the City Repair T-Horse, which is a truck that has been kind of retrofitted to be a mobile tea party. It has wings. It'll drive up to the Multnomah Arts Center, unveil its wings, and create a gathering space and literally serve tea out of it. The point of this event is to really just gather and kind of have fun, meet people, and collaborate about what we're doing just along the way. So this project is as much about the process as it is about the end goal of creating some kind of permanent, art result at the end. So today we wanted to talk about the site selection for a potential mural. So as I said, we're in this exploratory phase, and we're looking at doing 1 or 2 street intersection murals on a residential intersection in the Multnomah neighborhood. One site that's been identified that we're exploring for viability is 36th and Canby. And then as a second potential site, we're looking somewhere in the South Multnomah section near Southwest 35th and Falcon. If folks are familiar with that intersection that has the slip lane kind of behind the food carts, the French Quarter food carts. Corinne, I don't know if you have a map ready or anything, and maybe we can show, do a little bit of screen sharing. That was our original proposition, kind of for the dual purpose of it's a big space, it's pretty close to the village. And it could be strategic to just in general bring more attention to that site, because a lot of folks think that there could be safety improvements made to the intersection itself with more attention from PBOT, because it's a highly traveled pedestrian route without sidewalks and with kind of an atypical setup that results in some safety concerns for pedestrians. So we're also considering the potential of having a mural on a different section of pavement closer to Spring Garden Park. So at the corner of Southwest 35th and Spring Garden Street, there's a more or less 4-way stop intersection there that is also kind of probably worthy of a placemaking project, because it's a highly traveled route on the way between the village and the park. And one of the considerations that we have to take into account when looking at potential locations for a street mural would be the condition of the pavement. So in this particular location, the pavement is relatively good looking when compared to some other sections of road in this area, which folks know involve like potholes and gravel.
Pam, can you, or Corinne, can you show the all three of those locations in that particular view mode?
Mhm.
I don't, 36th and Canby, folks might not know where that's at.
Okay, so I just showed the Spring Garden intersection that Pam was referring to on the map. I'm going to jump back here and show the 35th and Falcon, and we'll have Stefan jump in and share a little bit about 35th and Falcon as well, because he has details about Peabot with that intersection. And then I'll also show you the 36th and Canby intersection. So this is the intersection Pam was talking about at 35th and Falcon. This is a slip lane that cars can travel both directions on. It's pretty confusing for pedestrians if you're trying to walk through here. And it's also the direct path from South Multnomah to the business district village. So the food trucks are right here, and this is Multnomah Boulevard. So it's a very high travel pedestrian and car travel area, which is kind of what we're seeking to get attention from on Peabot. Okay, now I'm going to show you the 36th and Canby intersection. So here we are driving through the business district. And then if you're walking on Troy Street up to 36th Avenue, here's this little tiny footpath. And then it lands on Southwest Canby Street, which will drop you straight into Gabriel Park. So this is the intersection we're looking at doing for Southwest Canby Street, because it's kind of that footpath that takes you from Multnomah Village right onto Canby Street, which is a future Greenway site, and takes you directly to Gabriel Park. And it's a pretty flat section that has relatively good quality pavement. And I tell you relative, kind of based on what we have here in Southwest Portland. But here's the footpath that goes straight into Multnomah Village. And so we would capture this area and try to do a pretty big circular mural that captures the full intersection.
So before we move on to talk in more detail about any one spot, I just want to offer a little bit of background information from Peabot and City Repair about street intersection murals in general. So the places that we're considering potential locations will have to meet the qualifications, which include it needs to be a low traffic residential street. So if it's in the middle of an intersection, it has to be less than 2,000 cars per day. And there's data about that that's accessible online that we can look at. The benefits of having a street mural are that they're great for community building in a few different ways. So in the process of creating one, it really requires teamwork, reaching out to your neighbors, working together, creating a shared vision, working towards a common goal. And then once it's in place, it's a creative kind of repurposing of public space that's for a better civic use than kind of what we have by our default design of the way intersections kind of have been arranged for us in like the original design. So it becomes kind of a natural gathering point, I suppose, or point of interest with shared meaning for the community. So communities that create these kinds of murals are responsible for the execution and maintenance of the mural, and the city does help in the kind of proposal process and in the approval and design permitting part of the process. So again, what we're looking for when we consider a few different potential sites for murals here would be good enough condition of the actual pavement for painting, support from the surrounding neighbors, and then in particular, we will require one neighbor who would like to volunteer as kind of the lead neighbor to collaborate with our leadership team on the rollout of the painting event itself. And then in addition to that, there is a permit process that we'll go through with Peabot. They have a street mural program, and a person named Greg Raisman, just devoted to street murals in general, who's pretty great. We've been talking with him a good bit so far. And basically, the design will be submitted to the city for a proposed location that we think would get approved. And then they will come back to us with basically a petition that we would share with the folks who live in a certain radius of the location. And then an 80%, I believe it is, this has changed recently, kind of consent rate of neighbors living within that radius would be required for the permit to be approved. So that's kind of what the process looks like.
Good stuff. Very good stuff, Pam.
Thank you. So, Corinne, let me know if you think we're ready to move on. I know one thing we wanted to talk about tonight is just the 35th and Falcon intersection, which was one of our originally proposed intersection locations. And this intersection is of interest because it's also intertwined with some pedestrian safety issues as well, which our transportation chair, Stefan, has been working on.
I don't think Stefan's here yet tonight. Yeah, I don't see Stefan here tonight, but a large part of this project was the safety and education component and the connection with PBOT. And we've been able to connect pretty well with PBOT, largely due to Stefan's leadership and passion for that intersection and the need for safety infrastructure. And PBOT now has that intersection on its radar with some pedestrian safety. I don't want to, this is kind of Stefan's news to share because it's kind of a big deal, but with some pedestrian or just traffic safety improvements in mind. And so it's kind of pivoted how we're looking at the best use for that intersection when it comes to a mural. So to pin on Pam's point of looking at some potential other sites in the south side of Multnomah to really pull together a community mural and to then potentially think further ahead a couple of years down the road on what we could do at that 35th and Falcon location, if we can do things a little bit bigger and differently with a more focus on what that potential space would look like. And I'll have Stefan, when he joins, share a little bit further on that. I think the other point, to Pam's point, is that our next big push is looking for an artist and getting feedback from the community, and then also pulling together a committee to help us choose the art. So we're making sure that we're looking for artists in a very diverse way, and then also having a diverse committee of folks helping us choose the art that's been submitted for our neighborhood to display on its street.
So that's one
But-
sort of action.
Yeah.
If you want to be considered for that committee that would be selecting an artist, or if you would like to nominate somebody else that maybe could be reached out to invite to participate on that, that is something that we can tell you now. It's kind of we're foreshadowing that it's a next step that we're going to be putting that together.
What, oh, we do have somebody raising their hand. Jane, go ahead if you have a question.
Yeah, I had a question. So so the community, I just wanted to understand. So there'll be an artist, and then there's a committee, and then the community will be giving input. And you're saying that the committee will decide the art, or how does that work with the artists themselves?
So tonight we're going to be getting input from the community at large, everybody who's here. We're going to be asking you some open-ended questions. So actually get ready for this, because we're going to be asking you, when it comes to a mural like this, as a resident of the community, what would you like the mural to represent? We're going to be asking you for kind of words or phrases. And we're going to compile all of that information, and we're going to present it in probably the format of a word cloud. And this is going to be kind of the input from the community. And this is going to be actually included in an open call for an artist that we're going to try to disseminate this open call widely. We're going to get some submissions that will be including designs that have taken into account this information from tonight. And then it will be up to a committee to make a selection of who to basically hire to be the artist to make the design. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
And
You
we're going to
should
do
call
all of,
it a-
and we're
you
gonna-
should call it a jury.
Jury.
and we're going to do all of this in 15 minutes. Or at least as much of it as we can as possible, because I do also have scheduled at 7:45 our officer of from the neighborhood to speak. So I want to stay on target with that.
I think-
Questions in the audience?
Hi, my name is Scott Combs. I live right at 35th and Falcon. And
Mhm.
so this is really interesting to hear this discussion. And I guess I would definitely support more pedestrian improvements there. And I do think there's some real safety issues. And so I think that sounds great. It seems with the French Quarter, there's been a lot more activity there and not any parking really for people who visit it on the south end of Multnomah unless they're parking in the neighborhoods, and then of course then walking down that street. I am concerned about there's already a confusing intersection, and I'm curious if an art project in the street would add to the confusion. So that would be my main concern related to the art. But I welcome the attention on the intersection. I'm also a little worried about, because people do kind of whip through there and a lot of them are from outside the neighborhood, that if they're not familiar that that's a place to slow down, and if it's really seems like an activity area, that it could be dangerous for people too. So but otherwise I think it's great to focus attention on the area, and I'm anxious to sort of see how this goes.
Thanks, Scott, for your feedback. And actually, I'm really glad that you said the piece about kind of affecting traffic and pedestrian movement and so forth, because I actually think that's one of the main points I forgot to mention from the PBOT document, which is that the intersection murals are not designed to affect traffic or pedestrians, and they are in fact shown not to. So that being said, we also agree that it's actually really important to be strategic with this intersection, because there's already a lot going on there. And really the direction that we're leaning with this, with the Falcon intersection, is if there's any kind of hint of more substantial, like actually restructuring of the intersection for the purpose of like pedestrian safety improvements, maybe a mural should, like maybe step aside and not be involved in that to avoid accidentally impeding that process in any way, which is why we're actually considering maybe a different location kind of on that southwest 35th stretch between the village and Spring Garden Park. Corinne, do you want to say anything about that? I'm not sure how much of these updates we should share before Stefan comes, but.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns, we talked to PBOT and have tried to get some as much information so we can make a really solid educated decision about this. But if there is, and I don't want to say a promise of pedestrian improvements, but there is, Falcon is on a list to be improved, which is very exciting, and a large effort towards this project was to get more attention for pedestrian safety in the village. But if we were to do an intersection mural there, any sort of construction would probably damage it. To Pam's point, we don't want to cause any confusion, and want to make sure that if we do something in regards to an art installation, we would want to do it after any of those infrastructure improvements were made. So whatever we do would make sense. So like Pam said, we're starting to look at, like, we know South Multnomah needs something, and we would love to do something in South Multnomah, but if Falcon's going to get 35th and Falcon is going to get some actual infrastructure from PBOT, then what could we do differently? And I'm really glad that you pointed those things out, Scott. And it's good to hear input from somebody who is right there that actually sees what's happening. We're going to try to bring PBOT into as many of our events as possible. PBOT was at our kickoff event on Sunday. They love hearing from the community. They love hearing from an engaged community. So any of that input that we can get from what's actually happening on the ground and those intersections, I think is really meaningful to take to PBOT, especially since Southwest needs, as much as we can get in regards to infrastructure for safety for people. I think that's it. I don't know if I got what you're after, Pam, but.
Yeah, no, that's great. And before we move on we need to move on to the second part of our topic here, which is the creative input. Before we do that, we could have time to address another question if anybody else wants to speak up, because folks on that intersection have been invited to come tonight. And please follow up with us using this email address that's been posted in the chat here, because we want to hear, especially from folks on this stretch where there is like a possible potential for a mural there. It really depends on kind of what we're hearing back from the community and just what folks think what could happen, since we're in this kind of exploratory phase.
Hey, Pam and Corinne, this is Julie. Just a thought, I was trying to brainstorm around the neighborhood and two questions come to mind when I think about building that, like, trying to find a place that could create space. The first place that I think of is, you think of the fire station, right? So there's that corner right there because they've got the bioswales all right there, and it's a really big corner on Dolph and 30th. But if you go down Dolph just to the underpasses where the homeless go, where there's the barber and then the 5 underpasses, there's a really big it's basically Dolphin 26. If you look there, there is already a traffic triangle. That entire area, that's my adopt a block area. It's pretty large. It does have the ability to, to be a place that could be a lot more community based than what it is right now, which is, a place for people to throw their needles and to park their RVs. So just a couple of thoughts in that area. Dolph at 30th and then 26th and Dolph, just an idea.
Okay, thanks for mentioning that. I'm familiar with that area, so we're gonna make note of that. I think with that, we're just going to, in the interest of time, we're just gonna once again invite you to follow up with us. We really are interested in receiving comments from folks on this topic of location selection. And if anybody's interested in learning more about doing this kind of neighbor site host role of collaborating with us more to kind of be the lead contact about a mural site, just kind of helping with the rollout of the actual painting event itself, please contact us on this email. And we're going to move on to the second sort of experimental and fun in its own way portion of what we're bringing you tonight, which is we really just want to know what you think. Like, if there's a mural somewhere in our neighborhood, what kind of content would you like for it to represent? So now this is going to be real open-ended. Individual words work best for this. We're going to invite you to type it into the chat if you're on a computer. And it's anonymous, so it doesn't matter who it comes from, as long as it gets to us. You can email this anytime tonight. You can type it into the chat window right now. If you're in person, you can write it down on a piece of paper, and we're going to get those pieces of paper and get them typed in and get them to us. We're going to feed all of these words into a word cloud. It's going to make a nice kind of visual summary of what everybody is saying. So I'm going to ask you now, we're about to start, and all you have to do is just type into the chat, just to everybody. Thank you. We got one. Any word, as many words as you want. And actually repetition of words is totally fine. If you see somebody has typed something in that you wanted to say it again, because it gives it more emphasis. And we're going to see that visually in our display. And we're going to be able to share the results of this with you after tonight. So we have social media, and we have a website now, and we'll be sharing this online. So I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes, and we're just going to let this roll. So just think and type or write.
Oh. Yeah. A second. I can do this better. Just a second.
I'm just going to offer just a couple of prompts. Maybe something about, what's one of your favorite places in Multnomah? Or a favorite memory you have in Multnomah?
Crows. Yeah. That's a good one, actually.
When you think about what you want the mural to represent, you could also think about why art matters to you, what the Multnomah neighborhood means to you, or what it feels like to be home.
Oh, the train station. Oh, that very sad. I agree with that.
Is there anything that Multnomah symbolizes for you, or a symbol that you think of when Multnomah is mentioned? Love this. I love this. Should we open it up to anyone who's, Julie, are you taking notes from people that are on site at all? Are you able to capture some notes that's coming in?
Old people. Middle-aged people. I'm neither old nor young. I'm just middle-aged.
Ageless people. So we'll spend another minute or two just letting the comments roll in. This is really good. Thanks, guys. And you know, if you think of more things later, as I always tend to do in a situation like this, just email them to us and we're just going to throw them in the mix.
Nick Waller. I love that. Thank you, Laura.
Yes.
Yes.
When I was there 2 months ago.
You know, it really is intriguing that this art could integrate so many threads of history of the village, so many threads of interest from the village. Everything to Laura's suggestion of the original native, you know, so just the history, the original nations that were here versus the times when the train would go down Multnomah Boulevard on its way to Newburgh, I guess, Red Electric. Exactly. Oh, Fat City. Gotta get that. Fat City cinnamon buns.
I like that. Somebody just sort of, it's a really long mural to kind of timeline the history of Multnomah. I think that's what I just saw. That's a really cool idea. The comments are amazing. This is fantastic.
So I would invite anybody who is writing on paper at the meeting, or it's possible if there's a chance anytime during the rest of tonight's meeting to just type those comments in, and we're going to be taking the whole chat history and kind of extracting the information. So that's an easy way to send it to us.
If you don't want to share publicly, you're welcome to share anonymous email, drop it into a private chat to Pam or myself, or to Moses. If you don't want to put your thoughts out in the public chat, that's just fine. It would show up on a word cloud completely anonymously. Oh, it looks like Jane has her hand up.
Yeah, sorry,
Is that kind
second
of recall that?
question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no
But just
problem.
a clarifying question. You're calling it a mural,
Yeah.
but it's on the pavement, right?
It's on the ground.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because you mentioned a mural and I'm thinking vertical, but no, we're definitely still talking about something on the ground because it is different. Your experience of it is different if it's on the ground versus something you're at eye level. Thank you.
Yeah, good call out. Thank you for that. Yeah, intersection mural. Yeah, thank you. Good call.
All right.
So I think,
any last words here? We've got just a couple more minutes then.
Yeah, thanks guys. And I think we're on our way to, as I keep talking, just feel free to keep the comments coming in, but I'm just gonna kind of recap on the takeaways that we wanted you to take from our project tonight, that we're in an exploratory phase of the project where we're looking for a site for 1 or maybe 2 murals. And we're interested in hearing from anybody via email if you would like to nominate yourself or somebody else to be on this committee that we're trying to assemble to select an artist, or be kind of a lead neighbor at a mural site. Or, you know, get more information about that. So I think we have time, like maybe 1 or 2 minutes, if anybody has any questions before we move on to the next meeting agenda item.
I will say this, that we'll be sending out emails here to the field to folks talking about this. So if you don't get a chance to volunteer or to get your question answered tonight, there will always be other opportunities too.
And if you're interested in following updates on the street art project and or learning about volunteer opportunities, we have a sign up form on our website. It's on the Neighborhood Association website. So and updates are rolling out now, so you could be a part of that if you want to.
I'll drop the sign up sheet in chat as well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pam, for a wonderful update and summary of the project.
Hey, quick question.
Excellent work. Sure.
There are a lot of cool murals around intersections in the city, and there are a lot of weird and ugly ones. And I've heard you talk about sort of a vetting process that would be a sort of a jury or a group of neighbors making those decisions.
So I'm glad you mentioned this too, because this is actually a part of our process and what we're learning and getting advice about from City Repair about kind of best practices for doing this sort of stuff. Not only are we going to assemble a committee to select the artist, but we're going to try to solicit a design that will be chosen, and then we will come back and present that design for kind of a presentation and like commentary period about that. We would ideally really like to do that. So that's kind of as many instances of that back and forth between kind of like the design team and the community, really the better. So that's forefront in what we're trying to roll out with the process.
And when's our next opportunity to connect with City Repair? Is it April 1st?
There are weekly training meetings on Thursday nights that folks are welcome to attend. So we're going to one this Thursday night, and that is a session about learning about the permitting process with PBOT.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody's interested in that, please email us and we can share more information about the details on that.
Zoom or live?
It's live, and there may be
Live.
a Zoom option, but we haven't experienced that yet, but I heard that it could be an option, but I think it's live, and it's on the east side in the bridge space, which is under the Hawthorne Bridge, kind of next to OMSI, from 6 to 8:30.
Thanks for your enthusiasm on this, guys. I was really sorry I couldn't go to the Sunday's event, and was just thrilled to hear that there were 40 people who were interested in participating. So
yeah. Thanks
onward.
for your feedback. And, you know, Sunday's kickoff event was great, but we're having more gatherings along the way. And the process, like I said, is as much of the point as kind of the art itself and just the community building that it takes to even make some art. So yeah, join us for the T-Horse if you can. So mark your calendars for April 1st, and I'll try to see if I can share that flyer maybe in the chat, or the invitation to that event.
Okay, sounds good. I want to stay on schedule here because I know I've got a officer that's anxious to get out of here. So if there's other questions that come up during the meeting specific to this, let's get them, maybe send a quick sidebar to Pam and Corinne, and we'll get your questions answered on this for sure. So I do want to move over to the committee report, and of course, Pam, Corinne, thank you. Good work. Well done. Okay, next up, committee reports. And of course, public safety with Patrick Brunel. I'm going to give him the mic and he can take it from there.
Thanks a lot, Moses. First of all, I want to welcome Beth back, who's the actual chair of this committee. So hi, Beth. Good to see you back in action. Well, I've got a couple of save the dates as well. But I wanted to start with our officers, and I wanted to thank both of them. And if they could introduce themselves first and last, so we can get your names on our minutes. And really, the purpose is to create community and collaboration with you guys, and to hear any hints and tips that you have for us as a community, as a neighborhood, and also to field any questions that the folks have about public safety and crime prevention, that kind of thing. So I'll turn it over to you guys if you could introduce yourselves. Thanks. Thanks for coming.
Hello, my name is Officer Matt Schwartz. I've been with the Bureau since September of 2021, so I'm still what's considered a recruit officer. Yeah, happy to be here and answer some questions.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cage Bird. I've been a police officer since June of 2007. I worked exclusively out here in Southwest for 5 or 6 years before I was assigned to the traffic division for about 10 years before we were decentralized in 2021. And if you drive on Multnomah very often, you may have seen me as the motorcycle officer that's hanging out in the John's Marketplace lot looking for cell phone violations. So I'll try to pay some attention to 35th and Falcon. That seems like it's a hot spot. Yeah, we don't usually work out here in Southwest. We're usually over in Southeast, but the officer that was out here couldn't come tonight, so we're here in his stead. Oh, as far as crime, that kind of stuff goes, we had lots of car break-ins, still here, tons and tons of property crime. Try not to leave anything in your car that's really obviously, like a phone, a pad, a computer, the change in your cup holder. Take that out. I know it seems a little ridiculous, but people will break windows just for that. And then around the house, trimming back bushes, any sort of extra external lighting that you can have to light up the outside of the house is always good for keeping people away. But Southwest is pretty safe, just in general. So, and not tons to report on our part.
Is there anything, any events in the last 30 days are worth noting as far as unique crime wise? Or is it the typical more common break-ins sort of thing, catalytic converter sort of thing?
Yeah, every once in a while, there's a little bigger deal thing that usually revolves around a mental health episode with family members and that kind of thing. It doesn't usually make the news, as those aren't things they try to broadcast unless it turns into like a really big deal. We don't have a lot of those either, but there have been a few of those, and it doesn't, again, really affect many people. It's just kind of a familial thing, and it's more of a long-term solution that's not typically available right then. So sorry, we don't have much more than that.
Yeah, thank you guys. Any other questions from the folks? See if there's anything in chat.
Oops. Hi, this is Scott again. They did put no parking signs like right in front of my house, which is great for pedestrian safety, but people still park there and it's not enforced. I have never seen any tickets given to anyone who's parked there. So I know you're not parking violation enforcers, right? But I don't know if they ever come out to their neighborhood, but it'd be great to just sort of give people the message that now that the signs are up, they shouldn't be parking there.
Certainly, we can do parking citations. I don't know if everybody carries those around. We're usually going from kind of call to call to call to call. When I'm doing my motorcycle gig as a Moonlight as a traffic officer, I carry parking citations around. I can do those. I'm not going to say that's solely me that's doing it, but you can call PBOT and do some requests for intersections, couple blocks, Multnomah days, that kind of thing. Like, hey, there's going to be a lot of activity here, or there's lots of violators in this one particular area all the time. And they're usually pretty responsive to that when they have the resources to do it.
There was a comment about mail theft. Did you read that?
Mail theft at the post office box and Troy. I don't know, Judith, are we catching your question appropriately then?
And that's something.
Yeah, yes, you are. The post office box that was on the street at the post office was broken into. And then along Troy Street, there were several several mailboxes that were broken into from the back, and there was mail strewn all over the street. And from what I was hearing, this was mostly kids with a stolen car. But yeah, it was rather a significant problem, and I didn't know how well the police had gotten involved in it.
Car theft is a huge issue for Portland, and it's again that is kind of everywhere. It's another kind of a property crime that is all over Southwest. It goes into Beaverton and Tigard and out towards Clackamas and Gresham. I mean, it's everywhere. We are finding more and younger kids driving stolen vehicles than we ever have. And then there's also just kind of the normal, quote unquote, normal mail theft kind of people that have their sawzalls and that kind of thing. They will go and they take mail and they sort through things that they want. So, do your best to pull the mail out as soon as it gets there. But, that's another thing. You report, you can either call non-emergency 823-3333 or 911 if you see the person that's doing it. We'll try to get an officer out as soon as we can. If it's on the post office property, that might be more of a post office issue for them to deal with, but it's also good for us to know as well, especially if there are suspect descriptions or suspect vehicles that we can continue to look for. Is there anything else?
Anybody else in the audience virtually have any other questions? And in regards to the close-ups of the zooming in, I'll tackle that for next month. I've been it's a work in progress. I've been sitting there trying to. I'll figure it out next time. So anyhow, and I'm going to give it back to Patrick for the final report.
Thanks both you guys. Really appreciate it. Well, part of the job of the Public Safety Committee is crime prevention and livability, and so to that end, we have two events. Again, a Save the Date event. The first one coming up is our newly instituted annual graffiti walkabout, which is going to be on April 16th. It's the Sunday right before tax day, which is Monday the 17th. So if you get your taxes in on time and you need to decompress, Julie and I love taking care of graffiti. We love eradicating it, painting it over, pressure washing it. And so we are organizing ideally three teams of 2 persons each to go in various points around the neighborhood, probably divided up by type of graffiti. So there's graffiti on glass and metal, and then there's graffiti on wood and wood fences, that kind of thing, and then on concrete. And all 3 of these take a little bit different approach to eradicating it. Have no fear, though. We will train you on how to do it. We will have materials and supplies, from gloves to brushes to cleaning materials, etc. So that's the Sunday right before tax day, April 16th. The second event, which is a little bit farther off, which also involves painting, is painting the storm drain facility right adjacent to the post office. If you drive down Multnomah, you'll see multiple concrete walls that lead into the storm system, and those periodically get graffitied. And working with Corinne and BES, Bureau of Environmental Services, and other people, we're going to be doing we're painting salmons and frogs and other reminders to remind people that to keep toxins and other bad chemicals out of the storm drain, and also to discourage graffiti. There's at least some evidence that having an existing mural or some other art on a wall is a mild deterrent to graffiti. So that is on May 6th, which is a Saturday. And we'll remind people about that as the date gets closer, but it's going to be first thing in the morning, like 9 to 11. Julie, did you want to talk about your medication give back, or are we premature on that? Not yet. Okay. All right. Okay, I think that's all I have. I'm going to give this back to Moses.
Awesome stuff. Next up is Stefan, you are up. Mr. McLandridge. And with transportation, I might add, I'm sure he's going to expand a little bit on this, but.
Hey, how's it going there, Moses?
Hi.
Perfect timing. Hey, so a couple updates on transportation. One is I'm really happy to announce that the intersection at 35th and Falcon has been added to a PBOT list for funded projects. They're going to do a very, very simple project there with a target date of completion by the end of the summer. It looks like they're going to close the slip lane and create a four-way intersection. Nothing set in stone, and it's going to engineering in the next 6 to 8 weeks, and then we should hear back from them on what the concept is going to look like when it's done. Also chatted briefly with Sean Canny, our kind of planner who's in charge of Southwest, and at the street art open house at Leppel on Sunday, and asked for him and Corinne to present to us. There's really a handful of projects that PBOT hopes to deliver between this year and 2024. So once they kind of get those projects organized, I want them to come and present to us, so we see what's going on coming down the pipeline. I actually had a brief chat with Steve Sigathy today, and this weather's kind of caused some delays in paving Capitol Highway, but that project is coming along. And it does appear that there's going to be some overlap in the closure of Capitol Highway and at the same time the highway underpass at 26th Ave. So I'm not sure, he's not exactly sure what that time frame is going to be, but it looks like there'll be a couple months where that's closed under I-5 at 26, and Capitol Highway isn't all the way open yet. So we'll see how that plays out. But if you've noticed, there is already construction on Southwest 26th on the other side of the highway, and that is going to be the walkway that PBOT is putting in. That'll connect you all the way to the neighborhoods over there. So that'll be a really great project, I think. If anybody's ever had the pleasure of walking that stretch, you quickly realize how needed a pedestrian connection over there is. Let's see here. There's going to be some Southwest stroll events that PBOT's going to be coming out. I think they told me I wasn't allowed to tell anybody until the 16th. So that there will be some stuff that is happening on that front. Eventually, I think they're going to connect it with some other events. So there'll be an official PBOT announcement, I guess, Thursday. And that's all I got today, Moses. Any questions from anybody?
Can't spill the beans, huh? 24 hours in advance?
Yeah, I guess not.
Okay.
I don't have it memorized, and it's not in front of me, to be honest with you, Moses.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, the Southwest stroll for April 1st has already been announced, and that's kind
There
of
you go.
because it's in collaboration with our T-Horse event with City Repair. So if anybody wants to go to that, PBOT hosted Southwest stroll along the newly completed Capitol Highway project on Saturday, April 1st from 9 to 11 o'clock. That walking route is going to strategically end where we have the tea party set up at the Village Art Center, the Multnomah Arts Center.
Great stuff. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
I appreciate it. And well done on finding out about that, getting PBOT to get that into the budget. That is on 35th and Falcon. I get the feeling that's directly because of your efforts on this issue.
I got to give full credit to 35th and Falcon for being a miserable intersection. So That's where all the credit should go.
Well, I will admit to be salivating at the potential of that slip lane for something community
Yes.
related.
Yes. I
know.
think we were talking about maybe in the next couple years, figuring out the next step to program that space, because it is going to be a rare piece of sort of public space that doesn't have cars on it in our neighborhood.
Wow. Well, we can't make the world's smallest park because they've already done that in downtown. Although it's a perfect spot for it. I mean, just a little maybe pickleball. That's it. We'll do a pickleball court there. Okay. Anyhow,
I'm sure
still
the
holding-
neighbors will love the sounds that are emanating from that.
That's funny. Okay, well, sounds good. And I do want to say too, you know, when you think about that slip lane and you think about that area too, that business structure that's there, it will be very interesting to see what they put in there and how it could help to anchor the community somehow versus just, you know, right now what it's been. I think Eve, the guy that owns the French Quarter, for years he was renting that from them for storage and stuff. Yeah. So, okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Will, I've got you up next because community events has already spoken. Did you want to give us a quick update on what's going on with the West Portland Town Center from your perspective and anything on communications?
Okay, sure thing. Okay, can people hear me okay? I've got some new earbuds on that are doing my talking for me. Okay, the West Portland Town Center is one of those sneaky projects that's pretty major, and it has a big equity component. We've talked about it before, but a couple of very specifics. I'm going to propose that in April, we vote as a neighborhood to join the Southwest Equity Coalition, where they've been doing a lot of work around the West Portland Town Center. People that don't know, it's involved rezoning and increasing density in a fairly major part of our neighborhood, about southwest quarter of it. And that has to be done in a way that makes the, if possible, the charm of Multnomah happen. At the same time, preserving the low-income people's housing that's already there and making it happen in a way that resists the usual gentrification around projects. So what's happening is Southwest Equity Coalition, SWEC, is lobbying the city for budget items that relate to their equity needs for that West Portland Town Center. They are talking about every bureau that has a budget, for example, making sure there's room and some budget for an international marketplace, and making sure that there's budget to make sure that transportation gets reworked in ways that serve the existing people and so on. The density is coming. We have to be at the table to have a say, and being on SWEC, which has some influence with the city, is one way to do it. So there'll be more about that. But in April, we want to vote to join SWEC and support the equity part of West Portland Town Center. And communications, really, that's my big push for communications is getting a representative neighborhood association. As much as possible, get the people that aren't at the meeting. This is a good sized meeting. But let me back up, because there's one thing I don't think you're aware of. Our chair, Moses Ross, put together the tech part of this meeting at the very last minute. I was supposed to be doing the tech person. I'm home keeping away from people. But he did a great job. He kept his cool. It was ready to go by meeting time. So Moses did a great job there.
Thank you.
There is one other thing I don't know if we want to do or not. We need to take attendance on the Zoom part. People should be signing in on a printed sheet for in person, but we don't have a way to record all the people in Zoom. So if we can take about 5 minutes to do a Zoom poll, is that okay with you, Moses?
That'd be fine. We've got Julie has taken the manual log of all the participants to this point. but maybe we should take into account the 21 people that we have online right now.
Or 21 or
Um,
more, depending on how many people.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's going to happen here, folks, real quick, was basically Will's going to create a Zoom poll for us to do, which is acting as a form of credentialing for us to be able to see how many people are here that are members of the neighborhood association, so that we can have it in the record. And also in case if we do have any kind of a vote. So if you, so I'll pass it back to Will, because Will is the one that has to load that poll in. Be prepared if you're online on the Zoom, if you've called in or came in that way to do this poll, and that's why we're doing it.
You'll get a poll that'll show up on your screen, and you get to have one choice, basically out of 6 possibilities. You and the reason we do this as a poll, because there can be more than one person on a Zoom login, so we can't just count the logins and say, oh, that's the number of members. So what it does, it says, okay, I have 1 member in this login, or if you have 2 members, and if you have 3 or more, you count that. If you're not a member and you choose to, you don't have to be. You can say, I'm not a member, I'm 1 person, 2 person, 3 person. Pretty straightforward. Are there any questions about how to do the poll? Okay, then the other thing, once it's done, we'll make sure that anybody that was here and couldn't get a chance to do it and speak up now. Here comes the poll.
Well, we do have Beth Amansky who is calling in, so you're going to have to make sure that she's noted.
Yes, Beth and myself and yourself who don't get into the poll. Definitely part of that.
In my 2 windows, I'm not going to credential myself here.
No.
So I'm ignoring the poll on that other side.
Okay. I'm going to go over to my other screen. Be right back.
But everybody else on the poll, or everybody else on the Zoom call, should be seeing the window that the credentialing members of M&A poll. Go ahead and note how many people are at your login, if it's 1 member or 2 members. Husband, wife, that sort of thing.
Okay, I'm seeing we're pretty well done there. Anybody has yet voted, wants to vote? Okay, I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, close. Okay. Here are the results. We had 16 possible choices there with 1 member. 1 had 2 members, and 1 person was not a member. So we have 14, 15, 16 members on Zoom, and that's a quorum is 10 plus 1, and whatever Julie has for members in site, that's the poll. And we are now have taken our attendance, and I'm going to stop sharing. And that's it.
We're getting this nice and smooth process. I kind of liking this.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty simple. It's hard to not think back about those times when we were flushing this out a couple months ago. And
Oh, it was painful. Don't do that again.
It was painful. I agreed. It was painful. Thank you, Will, very much. I'm so happy that we've gotten it to this point. Okay, I got to figure out where the heck we're at. Okay. Also, I put in the chat, I put a link to SWEC's website, so that the Southwest Equity Coalition website, so that you can see what he's referring to.
Oh, thanks for reminding me. If you to know more about SWEC, if you go to our website, mnapdx.org, go to the menu, the equity page has a lot of information about SWEC, including a very important document, their charter, which is something we basically need to look at. Thanks a lot.
Very good. Okay, so gosh, I am right on time. I love this. It's 8:12 and the next section is supposed to start at 8:15. So I'm actually 3 minutes ahead. I'm determined to make these meetings an hour and a half. I mean, I remember these. Okay, so here we go. I'm glad I got consensus on the objective here. Okay, so next up, old business. The Multnomah Safe Rest Village that is located at the Armory property, part of their we are participating in a community advisory committee made up of stakeholders from that related to that Safe Rest Village. I recently appointed Will Fuller to be the member of that committee so that he can report back to us at both the board meetings and at the general meetings as to the latest of what's been going on at the Safe Rest Village. Fortunately or unfortunately, well, very fortunate, I should say, there has been 0 incidents from folks living there, from at the village, which really encourages me. And so we've been, our committee meetings are relatively short because of that. There's not much, that we can report back but it is an essential accountability key. I feel that with the neighborhood association to be on that committee and to have that type of oversight and have that type of communication with the city and the service provider there at the Safe Rest Village. So All Good Northwest and those folks there. So I replaced Chris Dirth, our local neighbor, Chris Dirth. So I don't think he's on the call, but I do want to give him a big thank you for being a temporary member of that committee for us. But Will, thank you for accepting that. And so appreciate it. And our next meeting for that, they just had a March meeting. So the next one will probably be the first week of April, and they'll be getting back in touch with him on that. And he can report back to us in March, or pardon me, in April, as to the going ons there. Let's see, other old business. We had a motion that was presented to us back in February, January, from Frank Rudloff. And I've made the decision to postpone that motion until our April meeting. Partly because your chair messed up and did not get that out to the field as quickly as he meant to for us to discuss. But also it worked out in the sense because we've been able to have the focus on the community events committee and the efforts with the 501c3 and such. But we do need to have a conversation about this as a membership. It's the motion that Frank has proposed is in relation to the Safe Rest Village and the going-ons between the federal government and the city of Portland in relation to how the city is using that property. Frank's motion is asking us to oppose what they called the abrogation agreement that they want to do as a compromise, where basically the city is going to be purchasing this little segment of property where the Safe Rest Village is located there in the Armory. So the decisions on that aren't going to be made for a couple more months. Anywho, so I've made that decision to have us postpone that debate until the April meeting. And so over the next little while, I will be sending out a copy of that notice of that motion, and we can have that discussion, start to have that discussion about that motion to vote on at our next general meeting. So having said that, it's next up would be that I don't think there's any other old business that we need to take care of. Is there any, do my officers have anything that we need to, I'm missing for old business? Okay, great. All right, so let's move into the new business here. Okay, I'm gonna give that over to Julie and let her start that part.
I don't know how many people in the neighborhood are familiar with the Little Free Puzzle Library that's at the bottom of Spring Garden Park. There is a woman who's been kind enough throughout the pandemic to open her carport for a while to a puzzle exchange. And now there are these plastic tubs out there, and a lot of us enjoy going and dropping off puzzles and picking them up. There have been 3 thefts where people will come and clip the bike locks and steal the boxes. So she's on her 3rd set. These ones my husband and I donated and installed, and it's only a matter of time until they get bigger locks. I'd like very much to get feedback about the idea of creating a community event in 2023 to create a free puzzle library actual kiosk, where we would maybe partner with the Woodworkers Guild here, or maybe a local school, get the kids to paint it, get some grants either from, there's a tiny little grant I saw, or get ACE or A-Boy to donate some materials. I don't know if we need a motion for something like that. I've kind of started doing the investigating on such a topic. The property owner is already comfortable with having it installed there and encourages it. So I just wanted anybody's feedback if there are any rules to this, or if this is something that we should pursue as an M&A or not.
My first impression would be, I mean, just from a formality standpoint, was that an idea like that would go into a committee, like community events, for them to help you to bring it back up, to have the committee bring up a motion that everyone can vote on for that new project. I think I got the procedure right. Corinne, what do you think? I mean, if we do it formally, we have to do it that way. Unless you're Corinne and Pam and you just take the bull by the horns and you just do it. So, which I love. So we can do it one of those ways. But I think if we want to put an official stamp on it, it would have to be, I think it'd be best to come through the community events committee and then brought to a general meeting for an approval as a new event. Yeah. Corinne, do you agree? Would you agree with me on that?
I don't know as much. I can't speak to the formal process of how to follow the proper channels for an M&A. I think our biggest bottleneck is bandwidth for people to do it. So getting enough volunteers and getting community support to take on a project. I am all for it and would happily support it. But I think if the community wants it, let's see if we can get some more folks to volunteer and step up and join the community events committee and participate in stuff like that. That would be my plug.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what I might recommend is that get us let's do a formal proposal approach. Yeah. And then that'll make it really nice and slick at next month's meeting. Mm-hmm. And technically it seems like something like that would just need board approval. Now that I'm thinking about it, doesn't necessarily have to, it's just an event that we're holding, doesn't necessarily need general membership approval. I mean, a vote of the general membership to give you the permission to go forward with it. Be more of a board decision. Okay, I'm just muttering now. I'm sorry, guys. I start to brain dump. Okay. Okay. Sure. Oh, here. Go.
So it's really gratifying to see the neighborhood association move towards community activism and community involvement. And there's going to be a lot of projects that all funnel into the community activities committee. I think that's a good thing, because you get a kind of pick list of things that people want to do. And it kind of legitimizes the whole thing. I do think, though, if somebody has a project, they should be the champion of the project and not dump on the leadership of the committee to organize it. It's like every time, in my former job, everybody that had an idea came and said, I have a great idea for you to do. But it should be, I have a great idea that I want to do, and I'm going to champion it, get the people to do it, get the manpower, person power, and then make it happen, and under the umbrella of the committee. So I think this would be a good example of that, and future projects as well.
I like that.
I'll,
That makes a lot of sense, you know.
Yeah, I'll chime in just to jump onto that. And then I think I'm next on the agenda, and what I have to say kind of segues into this, but I think lots of people have great ideas, and sometimes executing those ideas is what's difficult. And I just want to say that we're here to support that, to help people figure out how to execute those ideas. So if somebody comes to the table with an idea, they want to get something done, happy to help and support, figure it out. But I do think we need more volunteers to join the Neighborhood Association Community Events Committee and our open committee chair seats. There's no, I don't think there's any limit on how many volunteers we can get. So if anybody wants to join in a more official capacity and come to weekly meetings and participate in planning on some of the things that we've talked about here today behind the scenes, please reach out. We dropped our email in the chat, and we would love to take more people to work together. Building the community is part of this project that we're working on in general. So yeah, we'll support.
Agreed. That's good stuff. All right. Well, under new business, I have 2 items that we need to talk, and it's basically back to you here, Corinne. The first one is the Solve event coming up on April 22nd. And the second one is your April guest speaker.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. So to jump on a little bit of what Pam was saying, a large part of this project is the process of the project and the series of events that we're hosting to kind of build the momentum and build the community up to execute the end result of a couple intersection murals. So part of our grant and getting the grant was that we said we put together somewhat of a series of events to build community. And we have quite a few things coming up on the calendar, which I think is fantastic for the MNA. So I'm going to share my screen and just walk through really quickly what we have on the agenda. And then Solve event is on there, and I'm going to drop the sign up link to the Solve event in the chat, and I'll talk about that as well. So I just dropped a link to the Solve event in the chat, and then here I'm going to share my screen really quickly and talk through our series of events, which also mentions our guest speaker in April.
Okay. Ooh, that looks nice.
Was I muted? Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. Okay, so tonight is the first, we shared this at our kickoff event that we hosted on Sunday to share with people what we have going on coming up. And so outside of tonight, which is the meeting where we, the plan was to intake community feedback, which was a really fun exercise. I enjoyed that. The next one we have is April 1st, which Pam spoke to, which we have the T-Horse coming, which is part of City Repair, and it's to cap off the Southwest Strolls event that PBOT is hosting. So watch out for more information coming about that, but it will start in Little Gabriel Park, walk up towards Barber World Foods, and then come back down the new Capitol Highway in an unofficial capacity that I'm announcing it. And then we'll have a kind of a community tea party at the T-Horse at the Mac Center by the basketball court. So it'll be covered if it's raining, and then City Repair will be there. So it's a great opportunity to talk to people at City Repair, talk to people in the community. Pam just posted a sign up link if anybody wants to help out with that specific event. And hear more about the projects that we have coming up. The next thing we have is our next general meeting, which is on Tuesday, April 11th. Mark, who's the founder of City Repair, will show up at the meeting and talk a little bit more about City Repair and the projects that they do and what street murals will look like. And then we have the graffiti removal event that Patrick and Julie talked about from at 10 to noon. Do I have that right on here? In the village, more details coming from Julie and Patrick on that, but that's really exciting. We have that. And then we have the Solve cleanup event, which is part of the Multnomah Village Earth Day celebration, which they did last year. We also did an Earth Day cleanup last year with Solve. It was a great success. access. We opened up the volunteers, every piece of trash removal equipment we had. We needed extra trash bags. We collected so much stuff in the neighborhood. It was a really fun event. We're hoping to do it just like we did last year again and get as many volunteers. So I just put that link in the sign up. We'll meet in front of Meals on Wheels at 10. We'll fan out from the neighborhood from there, collect our trash. Starbucks will donate coffee. I'll bring some donuts, dress for the weather. Last year was beautiful and sunny. This year might not be, but please still show up. And then following that, we have Main 6th. Patrick talked about this, the rain garden painting adjacent to the Multnomah post office. Also kind of a graffiti preventative measure. There's been graffiti there a ton, and so they're hoping to mitigate that. That also happens on another Southwest Strolls Day, which is kind of cool, because Southwest Strolls will start at Gabriel Park, and then it'll walk past the rain garden, and we'll do kind of an educational component with BES. They can see what's happening, 2 events happening that day. And then intersection mural paintings are 2 dates that we have planted if we do execute 2 murals successfully, June 17th, and then the July 4th weekend, or the other weekends that Pam and I ourselves have flagged for those. And then I met with the Business Association this morning. They're planning their Multnomah Days on October 19th. They really want to execute a parade, so they're looking for volunteers and have a couple people that are excited about that. So that's hopefully going to come to fruition this year. They know a lot of people missed it last year. And then September.
That's August 19th.
Sorry, did I say September? Whatever. Thank you. Thank you. I misspoke. Thank you. And then the last one is September 10th that we have going on, and PBOT is hosting Southwest Sunday Parkways. They've done this in other neighborhoods in Portland, and we spoke up a little bit and said, hey, Southwest doesn't have this, and that's probably because we don't have safe walkability here, so please come to our neighborhood. We worked with PBOT on the design and the route. A lot of it has to do with Southwest Capitol Highway, and they also listened to our feedback that they will walk through our 2 intersection murals as well. And so we'll get a chance to showcase the work that we put together throughout the summer within our community. That's it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We have 1 more minute of the meeting.
Corinne, I'm realizing that we need to have printouts like this here in person too.
Microphone.
We need to make sure to have printouts of flyers like this available at the general meeting next time. Because
totally, it was a very quick mock-up before the event on Sunday, so it's got some tweaks to come to it, probably some typos, but I'll absolutely get it out. We'll put it on the website too.
But I will say this, looking at that and showing, and it shows all the dates of everything that you got, that's just beautiful. I mean, that's how you do it. You got to give everybody as much advance notice as possible. And it's quite impressive looking. I mean, the fact that we have all of these things happening over the next 6 months. So good stuff.
And it's not just it's us working with our partners in the community, which is fantastic. We're working with PBOT, we're working with BES, we're working with the Art Center, we're working with the Business Association, we're working together within our community. We're working with City Repair. Pam just put up the T-Horse flyer. We have a lot of community partners that have stepped up to help us out with this grant project. They're all posted down there at the bottom of it. So, so far it's working beautifully.
Laura, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I've done community murals for the last 3 decades, and our average amount of time for community input tends to be about 6 months. And if I'm reading this right, you're giving 3 months. I don't know if some folks, they take a while for it to sink in what's going on, and I don't know if there's going to be some resentment, because people might say, oh, I didn't even know, I didn't get a chance to put some input in. That's the only concern I have. Just old person with a lot of experience here.
Thank you so much, Laura. That's really good to hear. The grant, it's the constraint of the small grant. We applied for it. It was open in the end of last year. It was announced, I think, in December or in early January, and then we have to have it completed by the end of August. So we're constrained by nature of of the actual funds. But I do hear your input, and it makes me think again that we, Pam and I sent letters to everybody that lives around the intersections. We're going to do some door knocking as well. We're doing our best to get the word out, but if you have any other suggestions on how we can do that, we'd love to talk. We would love to talk to you offline as well, just to connect with you, since we know you have a lot of experience in this area. Maybe we can set up a meeting offline soon.
Well, most of my experience is on the east side, but you know, it's just folks sometimes take a long time to kind of sink in and realize, oh, this thing's happening. But I understand you have to work within your constraints. Thanks for that experience.
Yeah. That's good feedback there. Thank you, Laura. And again, Pam and I would like to reach out with you and talk to you about your expertise to help guide us through this process. So we'll send you an email shortly.
It's really helpful to hear that. Thank you.
Right on. Good stuff. I do want to, Pam, do me a favor. Go ahead and close your window, share screen. There we go. Okay. One last item that's on my radar, but I did not put onto the new business, but I do want to at least put out there for folks to think about and to please share with me any input that you may have by email or give me a phone call. Because we don't have too much time to talk about it tonight, as much time as I probably should have. Southwest Neighborhoods Inc., Sweeney, is our district coalition partner in the neighborhood association setup of things. They act as our coalition. They represent the neighborhood associations out here in Southwest. There was all 16, 17, 18 of them. And they've done that for many years, a couple of decades now. Well, a couple of years ago, there were some problems. There was some concerns about financial responsibilities, but it all culminated in them losing their recognition by the city, and also the money that went along with that, them being in the budget, and to fund their services to us as to our neighborhoods. And so they've been kind of coalition partner non grata, if you will. We haven't had one out here in Southwest since that occurred. Pardon me. So right now, Sweeney has been going through a bit of a reevaluation of themselves. And they recently had a retreat of their leadership. And that leadership is, people that chair other neighborhood associations here in the Southwest, right? And work on other neighborhood associations. And they have from the retreat, they were guided to go back and to try to get back into the good graces of the city of Portland. And to do it in a manner that complies with all the concerns, that addresses all of the concerns that got them kicked off of the rolls in the first place, and which they are starting to do and present. The reason I bring all of this up is because there's a vote tomorrow at their board meeting to go forward with their plan to go to the city and to get reinstated. Now, it's an interesting situation for us here in the neighborhood association, because for many, many, many years since our inception, we worked with Sweeney. They handled our finances for us. They did our bookkeeping for us. They helped put on events. This Zoom account is a Sweeney account, Southwest Neighborhood account. So they provided the services to us. So we have good relations with them. And, but because of the fact that they were not being recognized, they couldn't provide the financial support to us. And that led to us directly going to getting our 501c3 nonprofit status so that we could get sources of funding other ways. So there's some pros and cons to what they're doing. I mean, not pros and cons, there's some advantages and disadvantages, but they're having their meeting tomorrow, and I'll be attending. And I'm inclined to support their efforts to be reinstated by the city and by the Department of Civic Life. I encourage anybody who cares or if it has an opinion on this, to please share it with me here soon. And, reach out to me in the next 24 hours before their meeting and let me know what your thoughts are on this, whether or not you would support the idea of the neighborhood association supporting them in their efforts to get reinstated. I'd like to hear that. So I leave you on that topic. We have finished all the other topics and I got that last one squoze in. And I just wanted to make sure it's out there on the record that people understood that. And please reach out to me by email if you have a question on that or like to comment on that Sweeney situation. Otherwise, the next meeting, we do a quick review. We're going to have a guest. We're going to have Mark Wakeman from the City Repair Group. We'll have our representative from the police department, like tonight, show up for 15 minutes, and I'm going to schedule him at 7:15, Corinne. So I'm going to make sure that we get that out of the way so he's not here all night. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. And they're still here. I love it. Okay. We have that. We'll get reports back from the street art project. We'll be talking about the motion from Frank Rudloff in regards to the abrogation of opposition or support letter. Is there anything I'm missing? Mark Lakeman. Yes. Yes, Mark Lakeman. Is there anything else that we need to share? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Last, just want to make sure that you send the chat content to Pam and myself before the meeting is closed. I think it's saved by default, but I just want to make sure we don't lose the chat before the meeting is closed. There's a lot of great information in there.
Make sure that, yes, everybody that's.
And I think Will is on top of it for me, but I just want to make sure before the meeting's closed, we don't have a chance of losing all that great information from the community feedback.
Exactly. And also, Will, go ahead and stop the recording of the meeting, but I do want to say thank you for coming. Good meeting.